Dr. Nia Allen, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. So, uh, you've known my wife longer than I have.
Yes.
So the story goes, oh, and by the way, and let me say exactly what she wanted me to say.
Please, I was like, please tell. I was hoping she would maybe pop in. I didn't know if that was possible, but
She says to tell her hi, and I think she's amazing.
oh, I love Miss. I call her Miss Lori, but to the world, she's Lori Wallace. But to me, she's Miss Lori. So no, I love your wife. I love her. Yes, I've known her for years, and yes, we've had several just great personal conversations, and she's definitely been like a support and encouragement to me for half of my life. So yeah, no, I love her and I appreciate her. So please tell her I love her and I said hello back.
I most definitely will.
Yes.
Most definitely will. Of course, I interviewed her also, and
Okay.
it was a little tongue in cheek because of course, since she's my wife, we live together, right? And
Right.
there's no actual social distancing from your spouse, right?
Right.
But I don't actually have a whole lot of space down here
Oh, okay.
for more than me and
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
my
Okay.
drunk.
You like it would be a little
So,
crowded if she came down here too.
so we did our interview the same kind of way. She was
Okay.
up in the living room.
I love
Uh,
it.
so um, so the story goes. Let's see how long have we been married now? Let's see here. I think it's 12 years, and so that would
Wow, it's
be
been
like
12 years.
2008.
Yeah.
And let's see, I started working at New Salem.
Yeah.
Um, your parents
Yeah.
uh, are responsible for that. Um, and one of which is back on the screen behind us here. Um,
Wait, I can't see it. Is it my dad? Who is it? My dad?
it is. It
Okay.
is.
Shout out
Dr.
to
Milton.
Dr. Milton and Brother out there.
That's
I love
right.
my
That's
parents.
right. The
Yes.
three doctors.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's it. Now that's how you keep it in the family, by the way.
That's hilarious. And that's funny. Like it was never forced or never, I think it just happened that way. You know what I'm saying? Like my parents never pushed it on me, but I really just felt, as far as my journey, I really just felt like it was a God thing for me. It's just kind of like continue your education. I was kicking and screaming. I have no reason to lie, but I'm grateful that he allowed me to, gave me the grace to do it.
The my own journey. So I never really considered myself to be like a great student, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because one of the marks of a great student is that the teacher tells the student, this is the information you need to know,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the way that I want you to present that information.
Mm-hmm.
And the way my mind works is uh, not in a straight line that way.
Okay.
So the teacher would present information, and I in my head I would be seeing how this information interacts with everything else that I know and all this other stuff and all these tangents and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And because I would get excited about those tangents, sometimes it would make it difficult for me to pull in that stuff in order to satisfy the requirements of an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now my sister, on the other hand, my sister was always a great student. She does
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you tell her to do. She's a psychiatrist,
Okay.
and she, that was, definitely the path for her. I remember I didn't want to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I took a year off. What they call it, a gap year now.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. We just called it. Um, if I'm not doing anything productive, then I need to pay rent.
Okay.
That's,
Right.
that's how that worked in my house. So I
Yeah.
was practicing 8 hours a day and writing a lot of music and still performing and doing all the kind of stuff I was doing. And I just started thinking, well, maybe I should go to school, even if it's just, so I went to like junior college, community college.
Yeah.
And my dad made me a deal. He said that he would pay 100% of an A, and he would pay something 80% of a B, and nothing else.
Oh, well, he's like, this is it.
So I was like, okay, all right, let me go ahead and do this. So I took a bunch of general education courses. I think I had 26 credits, 2 semesters, full-time student. And then I transferred into my alma mater, Western Michigan University, did 4 years there. And so I was actually I'm already, like, my birthday's October. And when I started school, like, I turned 18, like a month into my senior year.
Oh,
right.
wow.
Which
Okay.
is kind of on the older side. And then I basically 2 years,
Yeah.
before I went to the 4-year school. And then I took the 4 years at the school
Okay.
to finish my undergrad. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going back to school. I'm done with school. Almost dropped out of school my
Yeah.
junior year. I kind of came to a lot of things were kind of coming to a head, and I was getting a lot of offers to go on tour with this band and that band and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, let me just buckle down. Let me just go ahead and get this done. And then I finished it. And then they offered me to do a master's degree, and, praise the Lord, all of my degrees were fully paid for
Nice.
with scholarships.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I guess I have to take that as a full assistantship.
Yeah.
I guess I have to stick around to do that.
That's a blessing.
And then,
yeah.
And then 14 years later, kicking and screaming, I decided to do a doctorate at University of Cincinnati.
Oh, nice. And congratulations. I don't know if I knew that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it was been out of school for a long time, and, knock off the rust, kick the rust off and everything. But then it was just kind of like a much better experience for me, because, you're taking like music theory and music history and all that kind of stuff. And especially for the kind of stuff that I want to do, a lot of the music history stuff was like, does that really relate to what it is that I'm doing? So it makes it really difficult to commit to memory. Commit to memory. It seems like random names and stuff. It's like, why does this stuff matter? It was a lot of that. But then the second time around, with those, the 14 years later, then it was like all that stuff, like it actually, I was like, oh, okay, I can actually see how this stuff actually relates to.
Yeah.
Plus there was a really good teacher, and that of course helps.
Yeah.
But it's funny how that goes. I definitely never thought that. I never thought. I didn't want to go to college.
Yeah.
So having a doctorate doesn't even seem. It still seems like a weird thing. Very, very strange kind of pathway for me. But anyhow, so the story goes, I was working at New Salem because of your parents, created a position for me. And unbeknownst to me, that the person that was over dance ministry and that had choreographed for music that I had arranged for an Easter service, the first Easter service that I did when I was there, was Lori. Right? And I still didn't know her. Thank you so much for watching my video so far.
If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
I still didn't know her, but that was the first time we collaborated together.
Okay.
And then, you know, people were making some, I think some folks were, they maybe thought that maybe we would be good together or something. And so I think some folks were making some stories up that weren't actually the case or whatever. But I started investigating because supposedly she was interested in talking to me or something. That's what I heard. And so then I started investigating, you know, vetting. I asked your dad, and I asked, you know, some other folks. Charles Beecham was a person that actually he was the one that introduced us.
Oh wow! Okay, I love it.
Yeah, and so then, you know, that's the whole story. Because once we met, it was very quick.
Yeah.
We met, and then within 6 months we were married.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And, you know, and there's a lot of this thing about you don't really know who a person is, and you got to wait for a long time and all that. And I don't know. It seems like if you know, you know. So that worked out. Yeah.
And here we are 12 years later.
That's right. That's how it works. And time flies. And now I have a 7-year-old, and
wow, he's 7. Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. I'll tell you, so the best way to describe what having a 7-year-old is like, a 7-year-old boy is like, is a lot of surprise punches to the abdomen.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's I mean, that's a pretty accurate description. That's a pretty accurate description. I don't have to do as many crunches at the gym now.
You're like, he does it for me. He helps me.
Just get ready for it. Here it comes.
That's hilarious. Wow. Yeah. I don't have kids, so I don't know. You know, I'm still waiting patiently on my special person to find me and to, you know, to have a child. But yeah, I don't know. But I've heard stories, not of you, but just of kids and just the huge responsibility, you know, of parenting and the sacrifice.
Well, I have to say he's not that way with Lori.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't do any punching Lori. He's very gentle, and I mean, he's, you know, sometimes he's rough when he runs the hugger or something.
Yeah.
But he's very gentle and stuff. Hey, oh, your back hurts. Let me rub your back for you. You know, he's like that.
Aww.
For me, it's like, oh, your back hurts. Okay, let me punch you in the back then. You know, that's how that works.
I love it.
That's great. So why don't you tell us about yourself? Of course, I know where you're from, but for our audience, tell our audience where you're from, and you know how you grew up, and you know, stuff that was going on in the house, music kind of stuff that was going on around the house, maybe some early musical mentors, and then eventually what made you know that you wanted music to be a central force in your life?
Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Yeah. Well, hi everyone. My name is Mia Allen. I was born in a small town called Mansfield, Ohio. It's like an hour outside of Columbus, and we probably moved to Columbus when I was about maybe a couple years old. So I've grown up in Columbus. I was raised in Columbus, Ohio. So born in Mansfield, Ohio, raised in Columbus, Ohio, grew up in a very musical family. Where do I start? Yeah, grew up in a very musical family. My mother and her sisters, they had a singing group. And so myself and my cousin, we used to travel with them. It was my mom and her sisters. It was called the James Tucker Inspirational Singers. And they used to travel around Ohio, and I would watch them. So I grew up watching them and being kind of inspired by them. And just, we would at every service we were there, we were sitting there in the congregation. And so I grew up in a musical family, and my parents obviously, so I got it on both sides, my mother and her sisters. And then my parents obviously are musically inclined. As you mentioned before, Dr. Milton and Merlin Ruffin. Yeah, I grew up in a household that was always filled with music. You know, it was never forced on me, but it was kind of something that was like caught, you know, it was always around me. And so that love and that passion just grew over the years, you know. I would say throughout, and it was never forced. It was never forced. It was something growing up. My mom was the musical director at our church at New Salem. I think she's been there like 20 years now. So it's been a long time. And my dad was so she was over the music ministry, and my dad was over the band. And so I've always just known music is music, singing in the choir and singing, being a part of the music ministry at church is kind of what I've always known, you know, my entire life. So I would do solos in the choir, you know, in high school. Yeah, I was in the youth choir growing up. Yeah, but I think for me, high school, my dad, he was, as you know, he's an educator. And so he was actually my middle school music teacher at Monroe Middle School in Columbus, Ohio. So I couldn't get away with anything. You know, I was like, but that was interesting having your dad as your music teacher at school. And so I did cello. I used to be in the orchestra, and he was the band director, you know. And then I went to high school. But yeah, I think for me, when I knew, to answer your question about music, my dad, him being the educator that he is, he saw that talent in me. And I didn't know about Berklee College of Music. He was the one who was like, Nia, there's a school called Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts, where the emphasis is more so on, you know, contemporary music. Because I think that would be a great place for you. And I was like, okay, you know, so I went to their they had a 5-week summer performance program. And so he helped me put my audition tape together, and I think I got a scholarship to go. So literally I went my junior year in high school. My parents, did we drive or I flew? I can't remember, but I went to Boston for 5 weeks and I stayed. We stay on campus. They have high school students from all around the world, not just the country. So it's all around the world just coming together for these 5 weeks. And it's like intensive study, training, vocal instruction. We do concerts, we do ensembles. For me, after that 5-week summer performance program in high school, that's when I knew I wanted to do music. I was just inspired. I looked around and I saw so many people, so many young people who had that same desire and passion. And I was like, this is what I want to do, you know, and I loved it. I was like, you can do this, you know, full time. And so that's when I knew, leaving that summer performance program. I applied to other colleges, but I wanted to go to Berklee. You know, I applied to other colleges just for kind of a safety net, just to have some other options. But when that acceptance letter came back from Berklee, I was like, okay, that's where I'm going. You know, so I went to Berklee College of Music for 4 years. So I moved to Boston. I was there. It was 4 years. I went summers. I went summers every semester. Yeah, for 4, maybe kind of even 4.5 years. It was an intense program. I studied music education. I tried to get out of it, but of course my dad was like, no, just do music ed. I tried to get out, but he was like, no, I promise you're going to just do music ed. You know, we fought, but he's like, but I'm grateful. It's funny. You're like you said, you're kicking and screaming while you're going through it. But when you look back, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. There were things that I learned in that program that I'm still using today. Just management, classroom management, discipline. Just there's so many tools you gain from that and from that training. And so I'm grateful. So yeah, I went to Berklee. I was there for 4 years, 4.5 years. And I graduated with my degree in music education. After school, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to do music full time, but I didn't know exactly what that looked like. So I came back to Columbus. I came back to Ohio for maybe 3 years. I was there 99 to 03 to 2003. And I came back home. So 2003, I came back to Ohio. And I served at New Salem for about 3 years. I jumped in. I think I started helping with the youth, the young people. They had their own separate service at Mifflin at the time. It was Mifflin High School. And so I helped to kind of work with the young people. I got plugged into the music ministry there. And at New Salem is where, you know, as far as worship, that was my first introduction as far as leading worship. I've always been in the choir. I always grew up singing solos in the choir. But as far as leading worship, my mom lost her. There's 2 services, as you know, at New Salem. We had an early morning service, and then we had like 11 o'clock, 10:45 service. And after the first service, my mom lost her voice, and she came up to me, and she was hoarse. And she was like, "Yeah, I need you to lead worship for me second service." And I was like, no, I started crying. I was like, that's not what I do. I don't know how to lead worship. I don't know what to do. And she was like, "Yeah, I really need you to do this for me." And I was like, what? So in between services, as you know, there's an early morning service, there's Sunday school, and then there's a second service. So during the Sunday school hour, I went to her office, I cried, and I was like, "Lord, I don't know what I'm doing. I need your help. I don't know how to do this." The song was "Lord, You Are Good" by Israel Houghton. And for me, that's still one of my favorite songs to this day. I love that song. It has a very special meaning. But I went out there second service, and I led the song for praise and worship. We go down to the front, and it was in that moment I was like, "Oh, okay, this is different." But I love that that interaction with the congregation, and just kind of, is for me leading. There's a difference between, you know, singing a solo in the choir versus, you know, when you're leading worship. There's a ministry, there's something that's taking place, there's sensitivity, there's all kinds of things that's happening as you're leading the people in worship. And it's just a humbling experience. And I was like, wow, okay, this is different, but I enjoyed being used in that way. And so that was it was something I was kind of pushed into because my mom lost her voice, and kind of been leading worship ever since. But that was my push, my start as far as leading worship. Yeah, it happened at New Salem because my mom lost her voice.
You know, so I would have never guessed that you had that reaction when given that opportunity. The reason is because you're just, it seems so natural.
Yeah.
It seems so natural from, I think what the congregation experiences. It seems very natural, very genuine, not contrived at all. You know, it just seems like, it just seems very organic. And I mean, you're a great singer, you're a great artist, all of that stuff is the case, but it's not everybody that can, you know, lead worship the way that you do. So that is quite unusual, and it's great.
Praise God. Thank you.
It's really great.
Thank you.
You know, I did this, let's see here. It was well, I guess you could describe it as sort of a discussion. It's on my YouTube channel. It was a presentation and panel discussion. And actually, Dr. Ruffin was, that's right. You have 2 Dr. Ruffins, Dr. Milton Ruffin.
Right.
Was on the panel, and it was called "The Power of Yes: Developing Skills for a Career in the Music Industry." And the idea, it came to me because of the movie that Jim Carrey is in called Yes Man, where he had to say yes to everything. He and because he said yes to everything, it led him to all of these scenarios that he would never have been exposed to, just because he was willing to say yes. You know, and now obviously, in the context that I'm saying say yes, would be say yes in situations that are music situations, right? So you have a certain training, you have to trust that the training that you've received will put you in a position so that you can say yes. And none of us are born with experience, right? So at some point we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to do something that we haven't done before.
Right.
There's going to be a first doing something at some point.
Yeah.
And the willingness to say yes, to surrender to that. And obviously there's huge spiritual implications to this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And saying yes to things, even when we're afraid,
Mm-hmm.
when we don't know exactly how things are. So, I'm let's see, what's the personality? Choleric melancholy,
Okay.
which I have pretty dominant personality type. I like to have things worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when situations arise that are not situations that I planned,
Yeah.
it would be very easy it will be the usual thing for me to be like, you know what, I'm tight. You got that.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and that's something I've had to deal with, how figure out how to to be better about.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you said yes.
Oh.
Let's put it that way.
Well, praise God. And as you were talking, sometimes you have to say yes in spite of fear and do it afraid. That came to me because fear has been something that I've had to fight against. And it's funny that you say you would have never known because it looks like it comes easy and that it's, I was like, but fear has been something that I've dealt with for years, and if I can just encourage someone who may be listening, who struggles with fear, who has struggled with fear or is struggling with fear right now. Joyce Meyer said, her familiar phrase, she says, do it afraid, sometimes in the midst of fear, in the midst of fear, step out and do it anyway. And as you continue to step out, you see that it gets easier. And that's really been my story. I was scared to death when I had to lead worship for the first time in New Salem. I was like, oh my God. And fear continued to be with me. Like even when I recorded my first album, it was difficult for me to, as a singer, I feel like it's easier for you to sing songs, like when you do concerts and that kind of thing, sing songs that people know, because they'll sing along with you. But when you have to sing your original songs, I was like, oh, I would be scared to sing my own songs, and fear just gripped me for a long. I literally used to sit on the side of my bed, just like, I don't want to do this. I'm scared. Just fear of rejection and just just stifling. Fear is very stifling. So I want to encourage you all just know that I have struggled with fear. It's been a consistent thing I've had to fight against. But what has helped me along the way is just to continue to do it afraid, step out. And the more I would do it, the more I would take steps and just do it. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. The easier it became. And now it's a joy for me. Like I love it and I enjoy it. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. You know what I'm saying? But fear has definitely been something that I've had to overcome. So I just want to encourage somebody to know that fear can be a part of the process, but don't allow it to stop you from doing what you're called to do.
Something that something that I think a lot of people, they don't put this together, but because you're on stage
Mm-hmm.
and because it seems like you're comfortable, or
Mm-hmm.
it seems like you seem comfortable, it seems like you've done this before, you've done it a lot, that doesn't mean that you're not anxious or
Mm-hmm.
that you don't experience nerves and just anxiety and just those kinds of I tell my students all the time, I say I get nervous, but but nervous is not really the right word.
Mm-hmm.
Anxious is more like the right word.
Yeah.
I'm anxious before I play every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on Sunday morning. When I'm playing or whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm the minister of music at Second Baptist now.
Okay, nice.
And so I'm nervous there. I'm nervous playing, television broadcast, or, there's anxiety associated with conducting this interview,
Mhm.
or with, teaching something. And the idea that if you're anxious, or if, you're afraid, that means that, oh, that must not be what you're supposed to do,
Mhm.
you know, um, or, kind of pressing in a little bit on that idea. I think we sometimes have this idea that everything is supposed to be, um, you know, unicorns and rainbows and stuff.
Right.
And, as a musician, as an artist, hey, you're doing what you love. You must just be on cloud nine 100% of the time. And in everything that you do that is considered work, nothing seems like work. Nothing seems like, you know, and all this
Mhm.
kind of stuff.
Right.
And uh, I just tell folks, the same thing that makes a great, surgeon, or a great lawyer, or a great anything,
Mhm.
is what makes a great musician.
Mhm.
It's the work.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
still have you still have to work.
Right.
World class musician is spelled WORK.
Right.
That's
That's
it.
true. Yeah. Right. That's so true.
No. Well, so I want to know what you're working on right now,
Mhm.
and what sorts of things do you practice? I've had a number of singers on the program, and one question I always ask is about warming up,
Mhm.
and then just matters of like vocal health.
Mhm.
And you have any secret sauce for us?
Any tips? That's hilarious. Well, yes. To answer your question, before I minister, I do vocal warm ups, placement exercise. I have a friend. Her name's Sing with Angel Lee. I'm trying to give her a plug. She's amazing. She has CDs and I guess not CDs anymore, but audio recordings on her website. But Sing
Oh,
with Angel Lee,
great.
right?
Love that.
Right. I was like cassette tapes, right? Sorry, it used to be a CD, but now everything's transferred to audio.
Yeah, the 8 tracks. They had 8 tracks.
Listen, I know. She has audio recordings of her
Reel to reel.
right,
Reel to
right. Right. No, but she's amazing. She's helped me out significantly. I would work with her in person, and then she has things that we can practice on our own, and it's audio recordings, vocal warm ups that you can do in the morning, whenever. And then before I minister, yes, to answer your question, I do vocal exercises. And then she has something called placement exercises, because there's something different. If we're not singing from the correct place, then we damage our voice, and so that's been instrumental in my within my music, I was gonna say career, but music ministry. Is just the importance of making sure you take care of your voice. And so before I do sing, before I do minister, yes, every single time I do vocal warm-ups, exercises, and then her placement exercises. I do that. In my warming up, it helps me just to get my placement correctly. So to make sure that I'm singing as I'm leading worship, that I'm singing from the correct place so I don't damage my voice. But yeah, her placement exercises are amazing. That vocal health, obviously, drink lots of fluids, drink water. I drink primarily water. Ginger, for me, ginger root, like if you go to the grocery store and get in the vegetable aisle, like ginger root, people say you can put it in tea with lemon, but I just cut up the ginger and I just chew it. And when I tell you it opens me up, it's good for inflammation, but ginger root is my secret. I'll cut it up, and I did it yesterday. I recorded 2 services yesterday, and I cut up my ginger root. I put it in my little plastic bag and brought it with me, and I'll chew on it right before I sing. And it just helps to, it helps to soothe the vocals and just helps with inflammation. So ginger root it's strong. Now I'm gonna let you know it's very strong. Keep a bottle of water. I'm used to it, but if it's too strong for you, feel free to cut it up and make a tea out of it. You can put ginger root. You can cut it up, make a tea, put ginger root in there, put lemon and turmeric is really, really good for the throat as well. Yeah. So that's kind of what ginger root is my go-to. If I'm feeling hoarse, I drank some last night. I made a tea and just chewed on some ginger root, heat up some hot water, put lemon in there and put some turmeric. And I woke up feeling like gold. So ginger is and it's good for you anyway, outside of your voice, but ginger is just really good detox for your body and your overall respiratory health. So, but yeah, ginger root is my secret. That's my go-to.
Now you heard it here first. You heard it here first. Yeah, Lori, the ginger thing, she does that. She doesn't do it for the vocal reason. And I hadn't thought of that. That's I'm going to use that.
It's strong. So I'm telling you, your first time, usually people's first time, they're like, whoa. So just keep some, but it's strong, but it works. Go ahead. Just FYI.
Now, I don't sing like Nia Allen.
No,
but I have started doing, leading some songs at church.
Okay.
During praise and worship, usually. Sometimes maybe a pre-sermonic selection or something. And usually when I'm sharing the song with someone else. And, I took voice lessons when I was working on my doctorate. And, I always told myself singing was never something that I wanted to do in public. I've written a lot of songs, and I sing my own songs alone, privately, like no one can be around. But other than that, and maybe a little bit in the shower.
Right.
But other than that, I never wanted that to be, like a part of my sort of artistic, expression or whatever. But it started to slowly become a little bit of it. And a lot of that started because I work with singers a lot. I'm writing a lot of music for singers, and this has sort of been the case for, I'd say, the last 10 years, at least, that I've sort of started focusing on that more. And, when you're teaching the choir parts and when you're teaching praise and worship team parts, you need to be able to sing the parts.
Yeah.
Because although, I promote music literacy by providing sheet music for everything, those that know how to read are helped by that. But then even those that don't know how to read can start to gain some skills and start to get used to seeing what the notation looks like. But even with that, it's just best to be able to sing the parts. And so it kind of started with me doing that. Now, something that I have a challenge with is, I sing in tune. And a lot of instrumentalists, they will sing in tune. So that's not an issue, but I can't sing for very long because it's like first of all, I don't sing a lot. So I know that's probably part of it. So there's an endurance issue, but I feel like I also don't support my voice as much as I should. Not as much diaphragmatic pressure as I should, and so then I'm compensating other places, and so then and my range starts to shrink really,
right.
and I can sing about 3-note range, and then okay, I guess I'm done.
Right.
What do you tell singers that have that sort of issue?
I would say, like you said, your vocal cords it's a muscle, so it requires that training. And so the more you do it, the more you strengthen and you train that muscle. And so I think what you said is like, that's key, is that you have to exercise it. You have to, make sure you're doing your warm-ups. You need to receive a vocal training. I think you need to go to someone, not you, but I mean, vocalists that are interested in increasing their range and learning how to sing properly. It's a breathing issue, obviously breath control, placement. There's so many things involved with the voice, and just knowing that it's just your vocal cords are muscles, and so they need to be strengthened. They need to be trained, and that only way that comes is through practice and through rote. And so, yeah, I would say training, like you said, is work. It's training, and you got to work at it. It's not just going to come naturally, but it's something you have to daily work at.
And, something that I was adamant about early on, when I started at Second Baptist, how long have I been there now? 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Goodness, that is so fast. I don't even know how time goes by that fast.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be closer to 4 years. I don't even know what the heck.
Wow.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, it just makes me feel old. That's all. Anyhow, but I was really deliberate about making sure that we did like some vocal warming up before we did rehearsals. And then and this happens often, okay, we're trying to get more stuff in the rehearsal. And so, okay, where can you trim stuff? And it's like, okay, well, now I'm just going to expect that you're going to warm your own voice up.
Yeah.
And be ready when we start rehearsal. And I realized that's a mistake, and I want to get back to that. And I have a short list of warm-ups I want to get back to, but you probably have some sort of routine that you have your singers go through.
Well, I do. I was like, when you said that, I was at a church out here. It's called Grace Church of Glendora. And as the worship leader, I would come in on Sunday mornings, and it helped us just to get focused. We would come in maybe like at 7 a.m. and it was early. We would come in at 7 a.m. and we would start off just, doing shoulder rolls. We would do stretches, just kind of getting it. And it helps your body, it affects how you sing, so we would do warm-ups, we would do stretches, shoulder rolls, we would stretch, we would do breathing exercises. And I would just take, I know it's a sacrifice, but I would take about maybe the first 10, 15 minutes of our time together. They knew when they walked in, we're coming into stretching, we're coming into doing breathing exercises and warming our voice up. And it just helped. And then I would pray. So it was just a whole experience of kind of like, it just helped us to just mentally and physically and emotionally just get ready for what it is that we're about to do. And they always appreciated that. And I felt like service went over well, when we did that. So yeah, it was just preparing. That preparation, I feel like, is needed, mentally, spiritually, physically, it matters. We would sometimes do stretches. We would bend down to the ground and people were like, oh, that feels so good. I haven't done that all week. You know what I'm saying? So it really affects our physical health. It affects our voice as well. It all works together. So yeah, I would definitely encourage you to keep doing that. But I would do that consistently with the worship team that I was working with at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole vocal health and, as an instrumentalist, right. Primarily, even if I'm playing saxophone, if something's going on with the reed, I can just change the reed.
Yeah.
That's not how it works with the voice.
Yeah.
And one thing, I've discussed with other singers is I guess they've sort of figured out what foods, they have to just scrap, or if they're going to eat those foods, it's got to be within a, at least 4 hours before they sing or something, whatever it is. Without getting into too many details about that, are there certain foods that you try to stay away from that that sort of hinder your singing?
Before I sing, I don't think necessarily food, especially like in the morning. It's hard for me to eat a lot before I sing. It's just hard for me to. I try to, if I don't fast, I eat minimal. I try to eat as less as possible just because, just trying to keep my mind and spirit clear. But yeah, I try not to eat anything heavy, really heavy right before I sing. I hear that fried foods has a lot of acid, I never want to tell people what not to eat, but for me personally, I just try to eat if I eat anything at all, eat something very, very light, just something that'll kind of, cure that hunger pain, just something very, very light, just so I can stay kind of spiritually aware and just kind of, but drink lots of water. I have my, I'm not saying drink this much, but honestly, staying hydrated is necessary for the vocals. Caffeine, it affects people differently, but I noticed that it dries me out. So when I drink, I notice a difference in my voice. When I stopped, I just did a live recording. Well, a couple of years ago, I did a live recording, but I stayed away from caffeine for like months. And I noticed a significant change in my voice as far as my range, as far as clarity. I was like, man. And as one who, it's hard because you're on a rigorous schedule and you're like, I need caffeine to wake me up, so it's kind of like, okay, do I want to be sleepy or do I want to sound good? But for me, that's been a sacrifice. Is kind of easing off the caffeine, easing off the caffeine, because I notice a difference in my voice. It dries you out. And so I'm like, Mia, stop, drink more water, drink your water and stop drinking, So for me, caffeine is a huge thing. It dries you out. So I would encourage people just to kind of, eat light and then stay away from the caffeine. It's not good for you.
Yeah, I've heard something similar about, well, not similar, but maybe the other way about dairy.
Okay.
Producing
phlegm, how it can produce.
Yeah, right.
I think it affects people differently. I haven't had an issue with dairy, but I have heard that it can produce phlegm in your voice, and yeah.
So point being here is that everybody's a little different, and you just have to kind of figure out and feel out what works for you, and then listen to your body.
Absolutely.
So if your body is saying cut the dairy out or no caffeine, then that's what you need to do.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's part of how it goes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you talk to us about maybe some current projects that you're working on, and then also, I heard you say that, what was it today or was it yesterday that you just recorded 2 services?
Yes. It was yesterday. Yeah.
So I'm this is when I think we're gonna use this gateway to segue into doing music in the world as it is right now. But if you could talk a little bit about some of the projects that you're doing and
Yeah. Well, I did a live recording a couple years ago, and it came out this year. We released it in the midst of this pandemic. We released it a few months ago. It's called Every Nation. It's available on all digital outlets, all digital platforms. I partnered with a label. It's called Rich Nation Entertainment, and they have distribution through Sony. And yeah, I partnered with them at the beginning of this year in January. And so they helped me release the EP. So it's an EP of 6 songs. I recorded it live here in California. I've lived in California about 5 years now. And so it was at a church here called Hope's House Christian Ministries. And yeah, Every Nation is rooted in Revelation 7:9. Just the heart behind it is just kind of making aware just what worship will look like in heaven. Every nation, every tribe, every tongue, crying out that salvation belongs to our God, and that, there will not be a Black section in heaven. There will not be a white section. There will not be a Hispanic section, but all those who have placed their faith in Jesus Christ, we will be worshiping God together. And what inspired it is just, I still see a lot of separation as I travel and do different engagements. And, there's still a lot of separation in the church as it relates to race. And so that was, that's what I did my doctoral studies on here in Cali. And so that was the heart behind it. So as I was finishing up my studies, that was the first song that came in the process. And it's like I literally was in my studio apartment and God just began dropping those lyrics, just every nation, every tongue, singing hallelujah to the Lamb. Kind of just, it's the whole heart of the album was just to encourage racial unity. And it's funny, we recorded it 2 years ago, but I just feel like it's a timely issue, a timely matter right now. And so God does all things well, and so, every time I get an opportunity to just share that song or share the heart behind the project, I want to do that because I want to be a part of that change that I believe is coming, but it's going to start with the church. But that's a whole nother conversation that I believe, that we have the answer and we are supposed to be the light in this world. And so we need to shine in that area and we haven't been shining. And so I want to be a part of those conversations as we move forward. So that's the heart behind the project. Every Nation is rooted in Revelation 7:9. It's an EP. It's out. It's available wherever music is sold or streamed. So you can check it out. YouTube, wherever, Apple Music, iTunes. So yeah, we did that. So we've been radio. We got a radio person to work that, and it's been doing really, really good at Wait. It's fun at radio. It's funny. One of the songs on the EP is a song called Wait. And it's a song that I wrote with my dad years ago. We wrote that song years ago in the studio in our house in their house, in my parents' house. And I did a studio version of it. And then when I did the live recording, I was like, you know what? I want to do a live version of this song. This song continues to speak and minister to people whenever I sing it. And so I was like, I love the song Wait. And so that was kind of my way of just honoring my father and then also just honoring the journey. And every time even to this day, even though we recorded that song years ago, every time I was singing it still blesses people. I just feel like it's a universal theme. And so people are always like, either people have had to wait on something, they're waiting on something right now, or you will have to wait on something, And so Wait is a song that the radio person was like, we let them listen to the entire 6-song EP. And they were like, Wait is your song. And I was like, wait, you know how long I've been singing this song? And they were like, well, it could work in your favor because there's people who know the song. And then there's also people who've never heard this song, so it could work in your favor. And so I got to trust the radio person. So he was like, Wait, your single. So I was like, okay. So we released Wait to radio and it's actually doing really, really well right now. It's doing really, it's like he just emailed me today. It's charted, like, and charting means just the amount of number of spins, like at different radio stations in different markets. And it's like number 25 on the charts right now, which just means that like people are interested and they like the song. And so I just say, thank God, to God be the glory. I've never had a song chart and that's just never been my heart, but it's like, I understand there's the ministry aspect of it and then there's the business aspect of it. So on the business side, it's doing really well right now. So I'm just grateful. So yeah, that's the latest thing right now is just kind of continuing to see where Wait will go. Just the exposure of it. I get tags all the time on Instagram or social media of like, I heard your song today. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's so cool. I still haven't heard it. And I'm like, because we don't have a 24-hour radio station out here in Los Angeles. So I'm like, I haven't heard it yet. So it's, it's an encouragement when people tag me and they say, Nia, I heard it on the radio. I'm like, cool. It just helps because I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, they are playing it, So no, it's doing really, really well. So Wait is a single. You may hear it. Hopefully you'll hear it on your radio stations. But they've been very supportive. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the journey. So the EP, Every Nation, Wait, the single. I just did this is totally separate. I did Mariah Carey. She did a Christmas, magical Christmas special. So I was a part of like the gospel ensemble for that. So that was cool. I think it's just it's cool just to be involved in stuff like that where you learn from like the best, like their dancers were like Broadway, stuff like the best of the best, I was in that room. And so I'm always inspired when I get to sit in those rooms, and just see kind of how it works and how it all comes together. And so that's streaming right now on Apple TV. And so it was just fun. It was fun to be a part of. And I'm like, Lord, I just thank God because I know I get to do what I love to do, and I get to have fun and get compensated for it. Like what, so I know everybody, that's not everyone's story. And so I'm grateful, and it's not false humor. I'm just truly grateful that I get to do what I love to do. And yeah, it's not work. It doesn't feel like work at all, And so, so yeah, that's been keeping me busy. Right now, what are we about? It's December. I'm like, what are we about doing next? But yeah, holiday season. I'm kind of in the holiday mode right now. But that's kind of what's been keeping me busy so far. Yeah.
I saw something on your, I think your Facebook and your Instagram about some Christmas concert or a holiday concert or something.
That's what it is. Yeah. It was Mariah's magical. Yeah. The Christmas special. Yeah. We started taping it in September, but it just aired. It just came out this week. So yeah, it's streaming right now on Apple TV. Yeah.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
And so. Okay, so I work at Ohio State, director of jazz studies, and in the School of Music, all choral activities for this first semester, for this autumn semester, has ceased. So they'll do like Zoom lessons. But no, choral activities. So no singing together, because, of the potential of the spreading of, coronavirus or whatever. But the instrumentalists have been allowed to, albeit socially distanced and with some special apparatus, especially on the brass instruments. Saxophone is a strange thing, because saxophone, it's kind of like saxophone is like the super spreader. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't joke about that, but it is kind of funny. I'm sorry. It is sort of the super spreader, because you've got holes all over the place where stuff can come out. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, you're playing and literally something, even if it's on a microscopic level, probably something is coming out all of the time. Like if you looked at the saxophone under some kind of special light and slowed it down, time lapse or whatever. Now, time lapse wouldn't be the right thing to say. But if you slowed it way down, you'd probably be able to see, a lot of stuff happening. But there's not really anything to solve that issue other than playing the saxophone in a bag. Now they have these, and this is it's like totally ridiculous, right? But they have these bags you can put around the saxophone in like this, right? And then you could play it, now I think for next semester, they're suggesting that we have to do, you wear a mask, and the mask has a split in it where you play the mouthpiece through, right?
Wow. Okay.
And I have to say that just talking about this stuff, this is more stressful than, preparing for the concert.
Right. All the precautions that have to be made. I know. It's been extra. Like, yeah. I think to answer your question, go ahead. Were you going? I didn't want to cut you off.
No. I mean, I think I said enough to set up.
Yeah, no, I know. And I've, as you said, changed. Leading worship has just changed, in this, everything is virtual now. So on Sunday, yesterday, I did a live, we ministered to their live stream audience on Sundays. There's a church I partner with, and they needed a worship leader. And I was like, and so I've been able to help them out in this season. It's been great. But yeah, it's, we all come in with masks and shields, and, everyone, even during the service, they're wearing masks. I have to take mine off as soon as we hit record, because I can't sing. I mean, I could, but it'll sound muffled. So I have to take my mask off. But I've been talking with other church friends and pastor friends, and they're just like, the prep work to put on these virtual services, it's more work now than because you have to prepare like weeks in advance. You have to do there's pre-production, there's rehearsals, there's pre-production, there's recording, and there's post-production, there's overdubs. It's just a lot more work. It's time consuming, and it's just a lot. And so people have been feeling that pressure of, it's a lot. But everyone's feeling it, and
Mhm.
yeah, even in, like you said, it's changed. Like we record, like on Sunday mornings, I do live stream. I record live stream, and then for another church, I'll pre-record. We'll pre-record. So some
Right.
people are doing live, but then some other people are doing pre-record, and they come back, and then we'll have to go back and do the overdub vocals. And so it just depends. Every church is doing it different. They're just kind of figuring out what works for them in their context. But yeah, it's just the consensus is, like you said, it's a lot, not stressful. Well, it can be a little stressful because it's more work. Everyone is to feel, it's just more work, more preparation, more thought has to go into it, of just being safe, which we understand, but it just is that's the reality of it, but I think it's encouragement in knowing that we're all feeling it and nobody's just, it's not just one, but we're all kind of in it together. Like, oh Lord, yeah, we got to do what we got to do to stay safe and stay healthy,
Now, Ohio was not hit as hard as other places in the country, and you're out in California, which has been pretty much almost perpetually locked down.
Yeah, right.
And depending on the science on this is very unclear. And I think that if you listen to certain media outlets, they would lead you to believe that all you have to do is do X, Y, and Z, and you're going to be all right. You'll be safe. And then, others are a little more nebulous about, and there's different studies that show different things.
Right.
They were telling us wear a mask. Or I'm sorry, don't wear a mask. You don't need to wear a mask. Then they said, okay, now you need to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And then you have some folks are wearing the mask, some folks are not. Some people are, media personalities are telling you need to wear a mask. If you have the virus, then you need to quarantine and like this, but then you catch them out, doing stuff when they were positive for coronavirus.
Right. Right.
Out doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing, but they're telling us not to do it.
Yeah.
And then you have this verbiage about, essential workers and all this kind of stuff. And, in the way that this is totally decimated the music industry and all, musicians and everyone involved in the industry, from the people on the stage to the people that are working the sound, it's been quite devastating. And to have to sort of hear this supposed hierarchy of importance of jobs, well, we get to keep doing our job because it's this kind of thing, but you're not going to get to keep doing your job because because it's not essential, and this kind of thing. And you kind of understand why, but still it doesn't make it any easier when you're still trying to pay your bills,
right? And
you can't pay your bills because you ain't got no gigs.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? It's tough.
Yeah. It's just been a hard season it's been a hard season. I know there's a lot of loss. There's been a lot of grief in this season. I think there's a new normal. Like, we're all just trying to figure it out and, kind of navigate in this new space. And I honestly don't know when it's going to go back to, or if it will, or what it will look like. I don't think it'll look like how it's been. I think it's going to be, our new normal. And I don't think anyone knows exactly what that's going to look like. But I've just been praying, Lord, I know it's hard. It's a lot. I know. Yeah.
Hey, I don't receive that.
No, I mean, I want it to go back. But even when it goes back, what's going to be the implications? Like, do you have to have a vaccine in order to go to a mass concert, or do you have to I'm being hopeful. I'm remaining hopeful. Trust me when I say
that's right.
I know. Yeah, no, I want it. I miss it. I'm just kind of Lord, help us just to navigate in this season. It's going to look, it's going to be new. It can't look like what it was before. I mean,
No.
even when it goes back to, it's going to be new. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that new looks like, but you know what I'm saying? It's going to be new, doesn't mean it has to be bad, but it's going to be new, Yeah.
So, I'm not an optimist, and I'm not a pessimist. Lori might tell you that, oh no, he's really a pessimist. No, I'm not a pessimist.
Yeah.
I'm a realist, right?
Yeah.
So the way I see that is, I'm trying to, as much as possible, I want what I think and what I say to correspond with reality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I try to do. Okay. And if I am being realistic, I can say that there have been certain things that I think we may benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is this personal space,
Mm-hmm.
the awareness of personal space.
Mm-hmm.
Unless something like this happened, I don't know how on a grand scale you'd be able to impart, teach people about what personal space is,
Mm-hmm.
and try to be sensitive about getting in other people's personal space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, if the masks are effective at all, then they potentially would reduce the number of deaths due to the common flu, because we do have a number of those that happen every year.
Mm-hmm.
If we are more socially distanced, we're paying attention to space, we're doing a better job of washing our hands, using sanitizer, doing all that kind of stuff, then theoretically other deaths associated with coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
Coronavirus is COVID-19 is a coronavirus, but so is the flu, and so is the common cold, right? So any of those, then theoretically, we can push down numbers of affected by those others.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think I can be realistic, and I can still acknowledge that. I can also acknowledge that, for instance, the church that I work at, we were not equipped with any kind of live streaming anything.
Mm-hmm.
It just did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And we were forced to basically have to deal.
It's forcing everybody to learn quick, fast, and in a hurry and get tech savvy. Right. It's like, you got to. That's the only way you're going to function. Yeah.
That's right. And so now it took a while, but I think we've gotten to a place where we're starting to get some consistency with it.
That's
now,
good.
Remember, I'm the planner, right? So I don't like how this went down.
Yeah.
But I am willing to acknowledge that we're in a better place now than we were when this whole thing's began.
Yeah.
So that's positive, and it's going to be something that will be perpetual.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a YouTube channel happening, we've got a live stream, and then we have recordings of services. So stuff like making a copy of the sermon on a CD and stuff like that. That stuff is no longer necessary because there's an archive of all the services now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's also an archive of all of the music.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go back and I can say, hey, and also as far as I tell the praise and worship team, check it out. You need to go and listen back to what was happening. And that needs to be a regular part of preparing for the next week. So, when stuff is out of tune or when stuff is not accurate, you're not on your part and all like that. You need to know what it sounds like when that happens.
Yeah.
And that can be an encouragement to stay on your part.
Listen, because the tape does not lie, as they say.
Right.
It's like the tape does not lie. You're like, oh, I thought I sounded one way, but when you listen back, it's like, oh, okay, this is how I really sounded.
Yeah.
That's everybody. Yeah.
That's right. It is everybody. And in fact, that's something that I have greatly benefited from.
Mm-hmm.
I record everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. I record rehearsals. I record, of course, performances, and I have an incredible collection of live concert performances. All these gigs I've done, thousands of gigs. I just have all of that stuff. I just have it,
Mm-hmm.
and I frequently go back and I listen because I want to know what the tape says.
Right.
I want to know the truth.
Yeah.
Okay,
can I interject real quick?
Yeah,
something I will say that has kind of been beneficial in us being forced to this virtual space is giving us, if I can be optimistic, it's given us an opportunity to, utilize technology and exposure to the world. Whereas as before, we were just kind of in our little our regional area. Now it's like, once it's on the World Wide Web, people in New Zealand have access. So people all over the world have access to it. And so if I can be optimistic, I will say that has been a pro, that people anywhere can see it and now experience the gospel of Christ and, and can receive encouragement through worship. And so that has been a plus for me.
Definitely been a plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's definitely been a plus. I frequently tell my students that there's no such thing as regional excellence.
Yeah. Yeah.
It either is or it isn't excellent. And these days the standard is, it's everything that exists. That's what the standard is. I mean, you can't say, well, I'm pretty good for Columbus. Say, what is that? What does that mean? I don't even know I don't even know why that would matter.
Yeah.
Who cares about that?
Right.
So, it does sort of put everyone in a situation one thing that happened as the sort of gatekeepers to the music industry and to record contracts and stuff, as they sort of kind of lost their position due to Napster.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that happened was with also the onset of social media, and then the ability to release things and to buy studio equipment, and everybody's got a studio in their house now and all like that. But one thing that did is it made it possible for anyone to be able to create music and to get it everywhere.
Mm-hmm. It's leveled the playing field. Yeah.
Now, maybe there are the plus, obviously, is the access.
Yeah.
But maybe the minus is the gatekeepers, good, bad, or indifferent, the quality of what ended up getting promoted was always at a consistent level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least you can say that.
That's true. Very true.
You could question, this artist got in. I think this one is better. Why didn't they get in? Mm-hmm. You can have those, because, it's humans. Mm-hmm. We're still talking about human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a perfect thing. But at least you had like some sort of, regulating of what it was that was being put out there on Front Street in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you add the sort of validation via right? Tap that button, like and share and all that. The validation that we all want. Oh, how many views did I get? And that kind of thing. It creates a very strange sort of dynamic as an artist, having to deal with social media, having to market yourself, and I feel like social media sort of it has done to artists what the computer, with a laptop computer, has done to academics. So it used to be that the academic didn't need to know how to do a spreadsheet, or they may not actually be particularly good with like Microsoft Word, because there was someone else that had that skill set that they would go to, right? And then that person would actually do it, right? Now the expectation, because the technology is so readily accessible, I'm expected to have a lot of skills with software that 20 years ago I wouldn't have had to have that knowledge, right? I could have spent more time focusing on the discipline that I am expert in, right? I spend more time on that and less time, learning how to, make breakout rooms in a Zoom session.
Right. Right.
So, and so now the artist, it's got to be regularly posting. It's got to be doing all this stuff because, out of sight, out of mind. You don't want people to lose sight of what's going on. But then it's like, but how much of that do I really want to be doing? And how much of that is maybe even not good for my soul?
Yeah.
Like not a good thing. How do you deal with those kinds of ideas?
Yeah, I have to take breaks. There's definitely a pressure there's a temptation to feel this pressure from social media. And that's a constant, it's something I constantly deal with. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not letting social media control my life. I was like, no, I mean, if I can be honest, like you said, it's a struggle, it's not as a struggle. It's a struggle if you allow it to, and I think I've had to just like, you know what, Nia, I've had to take an inward, this has been a year of self-reflection. It's like, what's the root? Why do you feel like you have to post something right now? So I'm just trying to have honest conversations with myself of like, what's your motive? Why do you feel like you have to do it? Is because do you need validation from people or, and so that's just an honest place of where I've had to just be honest with myself, be honest with God, and just like, wait a minute, I'm not going to allow this to control me. And so I'm a lot better than I used to be. I feel like I'm in a good place right now, but there was a time where I was looking for that validation from other people in the likes and comments. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. It's going to have to be enough that I can't allow it to control me, because there was a point where it did affect me. And I was like, if I didn't get so many views or so many comments, it would ruin the rest of my day. And I was like, no, this is not. I was like, no, this will not be my life. This will not be my story. Yeah. And so I think it's just about being honest within yourself and not seeking validation from it. And, and I've had to take steps back because social media, it can be so saturated with so much that I had to take, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I can't do social media today. I need to just breathe for a minute. I need a breather just to give my mind a break. And sometimes I'll just take a couple of days. Like, I think my last post was maybe a Saturday or, you know what I'm saying? I have to, or even Friday, like I have to just take a minute. I can't allow that to control me, So to answer your question, I try to, when I feel myself getting overwhelmed or anxious or seeking validation, my motive is wrong, I was like, wait a minute, I'll take a step back and just say, you know what? Yeah. Let me take a couple of days. It'll be all right. They'll be all right. Nobody's missing us that much and it'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just about being honest with yourself, kind of where you are and why you're doing what you're doing,
One thing I think about social media is that I think artists, because of personality type, especially
Mhm.
artists that they're trying to worship leader types
Mhm.
that are particularly what it is that they're doing. They want a response,
Mm.
right? And it's not, they don't want a response because necessarily because they want a pat on the back. They want to know what it is that they're doing is effective and
Mhm.
is, if I'm at church and I choose a particular song and it doesn't seem like people are connecting with the song,
Mhm.
I'll try it a few more times because sometimes it takes a while for it to take off, right? But sometimes maybe it's just not going to be the right song and I
Yeah.
just have to stop doing that song, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm using the way that people are responding to it as
Mhm.
that's my measurement.
Right.
That's how I'm seeing if it's effective, right?
Right.
So I in particular can see how for artists and for folks that lead worship in particular, how it could get like confused and they could sort of like
Yeah.
you know kind of lay on top of each other
Mhm.
and it's like, well, wait a minute, am I doing this because I want to know that people dig it because I want them to dig me, or
Mhm.
am I doing it because I.
Yeah.
So it's a tough it's like a what do they say, the eye of the needle.
Mhm. I think it's just a heart check. We need to, concerning social
Yeah.
media, we all just need to just be honest with ourselves and just do a heart check periodically. Like, why do I feel the need to do this? If it's purely like, Lord, I genuinely want to inspire people, encourage people, and see how people are responding to this. And if it's blessing people, great. But I think it's just for me, I'm saying for myself, this is what I have to periodically like, okay, why are you doing what you're doing? Just that periodic check-in, that heart check. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nia, we could keep talking because um, there's, I mean, there's 1,000 other things we could discuss, and there's a lot of interesting things, and we know a lot of people in common, and all of that, and so it seems like I'm going to have you back sometime,
Okay.
so we can kind of continue our conversation and
Yeah.
continue this. Hopefully, after this pandemic is over,
Yeah.
and then we can kind of say, you know what, I thought that thing was never going to end either.
Right.
You know what? It's so much better now.
No, I'm praying that that's what that'll be our conversation the next time we talk. I really am.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, and thanks again for for doing the program,
Absolutely.
and pray for you and your family and everything, and stay safe out in California and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. When you extended the invitation, I'm like, of course, I would love to do it. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to talk with you. And please tell Miss Lori I said hello.
I definitely will. I definitely will.
That's hilarious. Oh,
All
okay.
right.
Well, have a good night.
All right, you too. God bless.
All right. God bless you too. Bye-bye.
All right.